Shalom YouTube, and welcome back to Hebrew Chronicles Publishing. On today's segment, we're going to be going over the new structure deck, the Tenacious Lightningbolt. Now, this new archetype is pretty unique, and it actually has traits, pretty much advantages of placing cards in the grave. So pretty much this deck is really about getting cards in the grave, all right? And they're going to unlock a lot of different commands. All right, so let's go ahead and show you the deck itself. Prior to that, let me look at some of these more images. This is the box, all right, and Tenacious Lightningbolt. All right, so this here is the next structure deck. So currently we have the Holy Knights and the Silver Wolves, and this one we'll be introducing next, along with the Philistines. All right, so hopefully we can get to show you guys the Philistines in the next set, hopefully in the next video. But let's actually get to the cards, because I actually had to buy two of these to actually create the deck that I'm about to show you. All right, the Lightning Bolts. So before we get into what the cards can do, I'm going to go over briefly, just in case you haven't went on the website, checked out the updated rules for the game, because I mean the game has been active since 2023, and within these couple years I actually made some slight adjustments to the game to make the game more fun, adventurous, and playable, and why the game won't actually drag out too long. All right, so the updated rules is more or less centered around the captains. So now we have the captains are pretty much broken up into two different groups, right? You have gold and silver, right? The gold being the primary and silver being the secondary. Now, both of them actually have the same advantages. The only reason why I classify them differently is you can actually have up to two captains on the battlefield at the same time. However, you can't actually have captains of the same stats. As you see, Barak has two classes. He has the gold class and the silver class. Those status lets you know that he can switch off from one to the other. Some captains only have one status, which will either be gold or silver. But Barak actually carries them both. Therefore, he's not restricted. So he can be played in the mid guard or anywhere in the guard column, as long as he is as long as he can switch off, and the other one is a gold or silver. So most likely he's going to actually, by him being a deck leader, which I'm going to go and emphasize on that, by him being a deck leader, he's most likely primarily going to be in the mid guard. All right, so to show you quickly, Abner is also a captain. However, you can tell that by looking at them both that Abner has a skill while Barak doesn't. So you might ask, like, why do you actually have two different captains in your deck and they look slightly different? Well, deck leaders are unique rather than standard captains. Now, these two captains actually are not too different. The only difference is by this one not actually having a skill, which makes it a deck leader. Deck leaders cannot be defeated in battle unless by another deck leader. All right. However, beasts like this here, this captain, which actually follows the same rules where the offering cost can exceed the offering cost of 4. So when you actually have a captain, captains and royals are the only beasts in the deck that can actually exceed the attack of 4. Because other beasts, such as, like, let's say Jephthah doesn't actually have anything in the status column, which restricts him from actually achieving anything higher than a 4 in all of the stats. Captains can actually go beyond that. So let's say, for instance, these two were battling against each other and he attacked him. Barak would actually, the user for Barak will actually take 2 damage. But like I said, primarily he'll be in the mid guard. However, he will not be defeated. However, if he attacks him, he can actually defeat him in battle. So deck leaders are very unique. Deck leaders will actually come in, I won't say they come in every deck, but primarily right now they will be, at least for the first 5 sets. All right. If you want to actually increase your, let's say you want to actually have a deck of Barak. So you want to have all three of your captains Barak. You can actually do that. However, you can only have one deck leader in your deck. Now you can have the three captains in your deck that are standard beasts. However, you can only have one deck leader among them. All right. And that's only if it's standard. Now you can actually have UGs, such as right now, I only have the old version of him. I actually have an update with the border as well. There's nothing wrong with playtesting, right? So this is Barak the Lightningbolt Knight Max. However, he is also a deck leader, seeing that he doesn't have a skill. The only reason why you can also have him in here is because, for one, they share the same name, and two, they're not restricted by the 3 rule for captains because these are UGs. So you can actually have up to 6, including the UGs, captains in your deck, because you can only have 3 captains, right? However, UGs actually start over a new set. So you can have 3 captains that are UGs and 3 standard beasts, which goes up to 6. However, you can only have, if you're not running any captains, right? You can only have up to 3 standards, right? 1 deck leader among them, among standards, but you can have up to 3 deck leaders that are UGs, but they all have to have the same name, meaning Barak. All right. So the archetype of this one here is the Lightningbolt. So let's get into what these guys can do. We're going to start off with Barak, the Crimson Lightningbolt. So his first command activates during the war step. So when he's battling against an enemy or an adversary that is of another nation, let's say the Philistines. Philistines are Hamitic, right? If he's battling against the Philistines, he'll automatically get a power up in his stats. +1/+1, so a +1 attack, +1 offering cost, he goes up to 4/5, equivalent to his UG counterpart, right? His secondary command is also a part of giving a power boost. During your, doing PX. So this is anytime. As long as you have three or more cards with Lightningbolt in their card names that are arsenal cards in your grave, he also gains an additional +1/+1. So technically, every time that you battle, he can actually, because his standard power up goes up to a 4/5. So he'll be a 4/5 as long as you actually have 3 or more arsenal cards with Lightningbolt in their names in your grave. However, during the war step, you're facing another nation, he gains an additional power up. But if he's facing anyone that's Israelite, then he won't get that first power up, all right? But you will get the power up from having arsenal cards with Lightningbolt in your grave. Not only that, he is instant. So even if he's in the rest position, his power-ups and everything will remain active. Instant is a trait that allows you to keep your stats and everything active as long as he's on the field. Anytime that a card is placed in a rest position, their commands become void. So if you actually have a beast in the rear support, right, and that card gives you a power up and your opponent targets that card and rests it, if it doesn't have instant, that power up goes away. That's what instant trait is for. That's the orange column, IN, instant. And he has beast mode. Beast mode is morally a trait that goes with the Israelites. When you use beast mode allows you to actually bypass your opponent's arsenals and anything, as long as it's not a shield. Now, shields are automatically active. However, this keeps your opponent from activating any cards, even commands to stop your attack. They have to do a standard block. That's what makes the trait of beast mode unique. That action command is going to be really highly sought for it, because arsenal cards are really good at stopping attacks, switching cards to rest position, targeting, destroying them, all kinds of stuff. When you actually have beast mode, you don't have to fear your opponent's arsenal cards. All right, so that's why beast mode is so unique. All right, so that's Barak. Next captain I'm running 2 Avneirs, Master of the Lightningbolt. What he does is, as long as he's in the grave, that's the first command, it's PX. As long as he's in the grave or on the battlefield, his name is considered Lightningbolt. So he actually works with the trait. So The secondary command is, let's see, it says, if you control 4 more cards with Lightningbolt in their card names in your grave, draw 3 cards. Your guard column gains +2, +1, +1. So by having 4 cards in your grave with Lightningbolt in their card names, he gains a power up. Not only that, and this actually is during the war step, right? Nope, function step 1. Yep, function step 1, he gains that power up. So as soon as you start your turn, he gains that power up. However, you have to be mindful. The Lightningbolt archetype is very tricky to use. Why? Because you're going to have to focus on making sure you have enough support. Because when you have to be mindful that when you do these power-ups, if their offering cost exceeds the support, it's automatically destroyed. So you're going to have to pay attention to how many offering cards you have on the battlefield, how many offering cards you have under each beast. So when they actually do boost each other up, you don't want them to be too powerful to the point that they no longer support it and they're actually going to the grave. So it can actually work against you. His last command is you can discard a card from your hand that has Lightningbolt in it, but it's an arsenal card. He gains an additional +1/+1? No, +2, +1, +1. So he can pretty much power up twice in one turn. So he's very strong. He can get very strong. All right. So the reason why I consider this the secondary to like Barak, even though he can get stronger, he keeps his power up. He doesn't. His power up goes back down every turn. It only powers up during your turn because you can only activate his commands during your F1s, right? So Barak, on the other hand, keeps his power up as long as you have arsenal cards with Lightningbolt in your grave. So when you're playing this deck, you really want to focus on getting him on the battlefield. However, if you can't search for him, he is a great close second. However, you need arsenal cards with Lightningbolt in their grave. In their names. So you can discard them and activate his command to do the power-ups. However, if you actually look at it, it's good to actually have him on the field first, seeing that you need Lightningbolt arsenal cards in the grave. He discards those, which means if your opponent defeats him, he still will have to deal with Barak anyway. And he gains the power up by using his commands. By the time he gets on the field, he'll automatically get his power up, right? So we're running 2 Abners, Masters of the Lightningbolt. He is a captain. His stats is 2/3/2, typical for standard captains. We're running 1, 2, 3 Gideon. Excuse me. Gideon has the same command as Abner. When he's on the field or in the grave, his name becomes Lightningbolt. Secondary is when he's in a Midgard, he becomes a silver captain status. So he might not actually be a captain such as these brothers here, but he can become one, right? And remember, the captain trait is having the ability to lead multiple men, right, into battle. So some characters you're gonna actually notice when you read, you're like, yo, these guys actually led militaries. True, but you can only have up to 3 captains in your deck, so you gotta, forgive me for that. But the captain, the captain symbol meaning he can actually become a captain while he's in the Midgard, but only if he's in the Midgard. So once he's moved to the left or right guard column, he loses that signal, all right? And secondary is if you have him on the battlefield and you control 6 or more cards in your grave with Lightningbolt in the card names. You get to draw 3 cards during the war step, and 2, you get to power up by +1, +1, +1. So he become a 3/4/3 when he attacks. Plus, you get to draw cards. So decking out is another serious thing. So you want to make sure that when you set your deck up, you don't want to draw too many cards in one turn, because you'll deck out fast. So you want to. I would say playing with this deck here myself, and I gotta say, I don't know, Holy Knights, Silver Wolves, and the Lightningbolts. I would say the Lightningbolts now are my favorite. Of course, it was first the Holy Knights, then it went to the Silver Wolves, and now it's the Lightningbolts. I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna probably feel the same way about the Philistines, even though the Philistines are built with raw power. If you want power, It's kind of like it's like facing a bunch of bullies. You know, all they do is power up. That's pretty much what that deck does. This deck here is really about also powering up, but not as much as the Philistines, but drawing cards to keep the deck flowing. This deck here is really about, like it is. It's a Lightningbolt, right? Lightningbolt strike fast, they strike hard, and it never strikes in the same place twice. So when you're powering up, you really want to focus on taking your opponent out as fast as possible. However, it's a slow deck, meaning if you don't actually have the proper cards, which you're not going to get in one structured deck, you're going to have to either buy two or purchase the booster pack as well to actually get the necessary cards to actually speed the deck up. But the deck is pretty slow because remember, in order for you to actually bring out the best of the deck, you need these cards in the grave. Only certain cards allows you to put it in the grave. Now you can actually use your opponent to your advantage, placing these in the left and the right guard column, allowing your opponent to take them down. That means you're gonna have to require damage. However, you have to do what it takes to win, right? So you allow your opponent to take some out and allow you to activate these commands so you can actually take the deck to the next level. So that's pretty much what he does. 6 or more cards with Lightningbolt in the grave. You get, not only during the war step, you get to draw 3 cards, you get a power up for your guard column. So anything in the guard column powers up. Also, while he's on the battlefield and in the grave, or in the grave, his name becomes Lightningbolt. So he's utilized in that fashion. We're also running 3 Jephthahs. Jephthah pretty much does the same thing Gideon does. Only difference is he doesn't actually have the power-up system. Let's see. This one states, well, actually he does. He doesn't have the captain signal. That's what I meant to say. So while he's on the battlefield or in the grave, of course, his name becomes Lightningbolt, right? And while you have 6 or more cards in your grave, you know, with Lightningbolt in the card names, your guard column gains +1/+1/+1. I believe so, right? Yep. And plus you get to draw 3 cards. So like I said, this deck, the Lightningbolt archetype is about drawing cards. So you get 3 of those. And finally, we have, to finish our beasts, we're running 4 blockers. Now blockers are unique because they can stop the opponent's or skip the opponent's war step. All right. So you can block. When you block, you can send an offering card to the grave or to the inward column, I believe. And what it does is it cancels all attacks and as well skips your opponent's war step. Actually, I think it skips their turn. They go straight to the end step. Yeah, that's what they do. So pretty much your opponent actually can't recover. So they attack. If they have any cards they want to play on their function step 2, they won't be able to do it. Because once you actually block and activate its blocking command, it skips your opponent all the way to their end step. So they can't play any cards or anything. They have to end their turn immediately. All right. So next we're going to start with, actually, let's finish this. Excuse me. You want these. All right. So in the structure deck, you're going to get only 2 of these and 2 of another beast. And you want 4 of these though. Tola is an Israelite from the tribe of Issachar. All right. And what he does is, of course, if he's on the battlefield or in the grave, his name becomes Lightningbolt, right? He also has he can also be discarded. So if your opponent activates any commands, you can discard him from your hand and place him in the grave to cancel your opponent's function command. Now it can't cancel action commands. Action commands cannot be canceled, okay? But he can prevent your opponent from actually, for 1 turn, utilizing their function command. So if the opponent, let's say for instance, you're facing the Holy Knights and you're facing Barak, or you're facing, let's say, Shema, and your opponent actually let's say tries to rest themselves so they can draw 2 cards, right? You can discard him from your hand to cancel that command. However, they will still switch to the rest position. They just won't be able to activate the command, right? And not only that, during the FX, which makes those unique because these don't have to wait into the FX. However, you actually have to have more cards in the grave. So with this one, you need 6 or more cards in the grave with Lightningbolt in their card names, right? With Tola, you only need 4. So it's really about prolonging the battle until you get to the FX. Because not only do you actually have, you don't actually have to have as many cards in the grave with Lightningbolt in their names. You only need 4. You just have to wait until your FX turn, right? And on top of that, you get to draw 3 and you get +2/+2/+1 instead of +1/+1/+1. So he requires less, he gives you more power, and he gives you the same exact hand drawing count. So if you attack, your guard column gains +2/+2/+1. Like I said before, you want to be mindful of the support you actually have in your guard column. And he also allows you to draw 3 cards. All right, so he gives you more power. He gives you more power, less of a cost. You just have to wait. All right, so while he's on the field or in the grave, which you want him in the rear support if you do play him on the field, you place him in the rear support, right? 4 blocker, and you use the other 3. That's why I say run 4 as either discard fodder for canceling for either discarding cards from your hand or for activating his command to actually suppress your opponent's function command. All right. And he gives you power and draw. So that's them. That's the beast. So I got about 15 beasts? Yeah, I think 15 beasts, 14 beasts, I think. And we're gonna run 1 Lightningbolt Overcharge. What Lightningbolt Overcharge does is it targets 1 beast with Lightningbolt in his card name and destroys it. You're allowed to draw 1 card as well. So think about it. Target 1 card you control with Lightningbolt in his card name and destroy it. Draw 1 card. Why would a person wants to destroy a card they actually have to draw a card? Simple. I run 2 Lightningbolt Blades. All right, so what these do is if you have 4 more cards with Lightningbolt in their card names in your grave, and it can only be armed to a beast with Lightningbolt in their card names, right? Let me see. While you control 4 more cards in your grave with the Lightningbolt in their card name, the armed beast gains +1/+1/+1. Draw 1 card from the top of your heaven with every successful attack. All right. So, no, it doesn't actually have to be armed to a beast with Lightningbolt. However, when they're armed to it, you can only arm it to a beast with an alpha cost of 3 or 3 through 6. Excuse me. And if you have 4 more cards with Lightningbolt in their card names in your grave, the beast that it's armed to during the war step only gains +1/+1/+1, as well as you get to draw a card if you successfully attack. So if you miss that attack, then you do not get to draw. All right. So of course, sometimes you might not need it. You activate Overcharge, destroy the sword, that goes to the grave, and that actually works in Barak's favor because you need 3 arsenal cards with Lightningbolt in their card names in order to bring out the best in him, right? So I only seeing that I need 1 Lightningbolt Overcharge, but 2 of them come in a deck. Now what I like, and I actually only have 3 in a deck. Structure deck, it comes with 2, but I of course I bought 2 structure decks, right? So I'm running 3 Lightningbolt Lightning Clouds. And what Lightningbolt Lightning Clouds does is allows you to discard 3 cards from your hand with Lightningbolt in them, and allows you to search your heaven for up to 2 beasts or 2 arsenal cards. And if you actually have any cards that are face down, that have been flipped face down, like been locked or sealed in your CM or UG column, or in your grave, in your column, excuse me, you can flip them face up. So if a card has been taken out of the game, say for instance, this is in my in-war column and it's flipped face down. When they're flipped face down, they're removed from the game. If you activate this cloud card, you can flip it back face up, which gives you a chance to actually bring that card back into play. All right. So the Lightning Cloud does a lot. It allows you to discard cards from your hand with Lightningbolt in their card names, right? Place them in the grave. You get to search for up to 2 beasts or 2 arsenal cards with Lightningbolt in their names. Add them to your hand, right? You might say, well, beasts don't actually have Lightningbolt in their names. They only have that in their names when they're on the battlefield or in the graves. Great thinking. So, guess what? There's going to be cards later on. I haven't made them yet, but this card is really for the future. However, it can get cards such as Lightningbolt, which I carry 3 of these. You can get Lightningbolt, Lightning Shield. If you have a card, just at least 1 card with Lightningbolt in its card name in your grave, you can activate this card, and what it does is it stops attacks. All it does is really just stops attacks. So it's pretty much like I don't know if anybody play Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's pretty much like a Wabaku or something, that stops attacks. So I run 3 of those. That prevents my opponents from being able to attack me directly or anything like that nature. And if I were and I run 3 of these. I run 3 Lightningbolt rods. And the reason why you want these, and only 1 comes in the structure deck. So like I said, I bought 2, plus I got a booster pack. So this one's hollow. These 2 are standard. This is a foiled version. That's why it looks shinier. But we got 3 of these, and what they do is they allow, once you activate 1, which you actually have to have a beast with Lightningbolt and it's in your in-war column or your grave, or an offering card in your in-war column, right? To activate this card. When you activate this card, it allows you to search your heaven for up to 1 arsenal card with Lightningbolt in its card name. So you can actually just activate this, get this one, activate this one, and get this one, activate this one, and you can actually search. Once you have 2 in your grave, right? Lightningbolt rods, you can actually you can search your heaven for another arsenal card with Lightningbolt in its card name, which means you can go and get this. You can get Lightningbolt, Lightning Cloud, and it allows you to pretty much get your arsenals up in the grave for your Barak. It's pretty much what it's for, really. To cipher through the deck to get up to 3 of these in your grave, so you can start demolishing the opponent with Lightningbolt power. And the last 3 cards are not Lightningbolt cards at all. Got these in booster packs. This right here, you can only have 1 in your deck, and I'm going to tell you why. It's called God Power, Raining Fire from Heaven. Remember destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah? Yeah. So it says target a beast your opponent controls and destroy. You can also destroy 1 province on the battlefield. So not only does it just target a beast and destroys, it also can destroy a province at the same time. Now, you don't actually have to destroy a beast in order to destroy a province. So if your opponent's province is giving you a problem, you can activate this and just target their province card and destroy it. But if they have both on the field, you can destroy them both. You can only have 1 in your deck, and you see why. Targets beast and destroys them. This is Glorious Regeneration. You discard 2 offering cards from your hand to search your grave for any beast that actually is in your grave and add it to your hand. So you can only have 1 of these in your deck. All right. Glorious Regeneration, and then we have Tides and Offering. Now, Tides and Offerings, you can only activate this during your function step 2, and what it does is by sending 2 cards to your grave, you can search your heaven for up to 2 offering cards and add them to your hand. But like I said, you can only do that during your function step 2. It says your opponent must then draw 1 card and add +1 to his or her menorah life. So you're giving them a free menorah life and free card. Could be a detriment, but if you really do need to actually get those cards in your hand, you got to do what you got to do, right? Because you need support in order for you to actually bring out more power. And lastly, I have 14 bullocks and 2 goats. and that'll be pretty much 16 offering cards that I run in this deck. It's pretty well balanced. The bullocks are pretty devastating when you actually play them right. If you have 4 of them in one column, you can discard 2 offering cards to target your opponent's Midgard and force them to decrease by -2, -1, -1. So they lose 2 attack, 1 offering cost, 1 skill. So, and it stays on the field. So even if the beast is destroyed, even every beast that they place in that column will be affected, as long as you have 4 or more cards with Bullock and their card name in the same column, right? It says if you have 4 more Bullock offering cards in the same column and 3 or more cards in your hand, you can decrease one of your opponent's Midgards by -2, -1, -1. One thing about offering cards, they remain active as long as the command itself, pretty much based on the command itself. So this one here is really about keeping your opponent's Midgard decreased and vulnerable. So if you got 3 or more cards in your hand, 4 more Bullocks in the same column, you can force your opponent's Midgard to lose 2 attack, 1 offering cost, and 1 skill. However, if your opponent actually forces you to decrease your hand down to 1 or 2, then their power goes back to normal. And if they force your offering card from 4 to 2 or from 4 to 3, they also recover their power. So there's ways on actually getting their power back, but it's going to be kind of tricky and it's going to take planning. Because once the Bullock's power is in motion, it's going to be really hard for them to keep their beasts in their Midgard on the battlefield, unless it's a deck lead, right? And then, like I said, we have 14 of those, and then we have 2 goats. And these goats are really for support, equivalent to 8, right? And I believe the new goats though are 5 instead of 4, and I made that for that reason. It's going to take 2 goats to equal 1 lamb. 1 lamb gives you infinite support. 2 goats will give you infinite support, right? This one here in this version, of course, this is the old version, so this is just a play test the deck. Offering cards you have to buy on their own anyway. So this did not come in a deck. Offering cards do not come in structured decks. You have to buy them separately. All right. You can get them in boosters. You have Bullock boosters that come with 15 offering cards, and then to get the goats or the lambs, you have to purchase booster packs. And they come in there. In most cases, they come foil and hollow. So, but technically, just to go over these here, because the new goats are going to be similar to these. Most of all of the offering cards are going to look slightly different. They're going to have the same command or same abilities. However, they're going to have additional abilities as well. So I didn't want to make too many changes to the offering cards because I know people like the way they play, especially the turtle doves, recovering and adding more cards to your hand. But I wanted to evolve them from the standard version that they had because I want the game to speed up a bit. So I pretty much gave them additional abilities. So the goat, pretty much if you have 2 or more in the same column, what it does is it pretty much turns the hand cost of action commands to 0 once per turn. So if you actually are running, let's say for instance, the Tenacious Lightningbolts, and you have Barak on top of 2 of these guys here, when you activate beast mode, you don't have to discard 2 cards from your hand. You can just go into the war step and swing in, right? Your opponent's going to have to deal with that and block standardly. If they can't, then that attack goes through, and that's going to force them to take 2 damage. All right. So these are the cards that I had for the deck. The deck itself is awesome. Get yours. I wouldn't say now, of course, but during the time the video is uploaded and everything, yes. Okay. So purchase the Tenacious Lightningbolts, or if you actually are a big fan of the Holy Knights, King David, get the Holy Knights. But me, I'm going to stick with at least for now, the Tenacious Lightningbolts. Now the Silver Wolves are available as well, and I'm gonna go into another video about the archetypes themselves and what each deck does and specializes in, so you can actually create a counter strategy to that deck. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.